What's up fellow hunters, Nox here, welcome back to the channel. Today we have part 2 of the dual blade builds, which will cover all elements. If you missed part 1, which covers raw damage and status dual blades, definitely go check that out. 5 builds for you guys in this part and tips on how to adjust them for yourself coming up. Before we jump in, all builds were made using just a 2 level 2 slot talisman to make them super easy to make, but I will be showing my own personal versions of the builds following each of them to give you guys some extra ideas. Let's go. First in line, Dance of Flames. A fire build that will totally melt any monster weak to fire. We're using the Wyvern Lovers. 200 attack, blue sharpness, 28 fire. Keep in mind, all elements will be even higher once we have on the builds, and element exploit as rampage boost, which is amazing on dual blades. It was tricky to fit in, but all builds will come with full 5 levels of their own element attack boost, which gives a nice damage boost to dual blades. Attack boost level 4, adding another flat damage boost, and of course we crank up the affinity as high as possible with critical eye and weakness exploit, to deal as many critical hits as we can. Then we add as much protective polish and speed sharpening as we can fit into the build, for extra comfort and sharpness management. In addition to that, we have another weapon candidate for this build, the Anjanath dual blades. They have some negative affinity, but they have crazy high attack, a good amount of fire with the rampage boost, as well as a level 2 and a level 1 slot, which is awesome. They can offer quite a bit of freedom in customizing this build. My version doesn't change much at all. I'm using a weakness exploit talisman that you'll see quite a lot here. In this case, it just allows me to max out protective polish and speed sharpening. Silent Rain. We're using the absolutely beautiful Mizutsune dual blades. 200 attack, white sharpness with 1 level of handicraft, 24 water due to the rampage boost, 15% affinity, and a level 1 slot. You might have already noticed from the first build, we're going to be seeing some armor parts that usually don't get much use. But for making elemental builds, these are absolutely amazing. Water attack level 5 for that juicy damage bonus, as many critical skills as we can fit in to complement the positive affinity on the weapon, protective polish and speed sharpening to keep our white sharpness going as long as possible. If you prefer, you can also use the mud twister with this build. A lot of hunters, including myself, really like this weapon design. We lose a bit of damage, but we do get an extra level 2 slot, which adds some extra flexibility. My version switches things up a bit and allows me to max out a few skills and add some extra attack boost to the mix. The Blizzard. We're using a weapon that has actually been around since the very first Monster Hunter game, the Gallet Soul. 220 attack, blue sharpness with 1 level of handicraft, a massive 33 ice, and a level 3 slot on top. This will shatter any monster weak to ice, like a hammer hitting an ice statue. Full 5 levels of ice attack, a big stack of the critical skills, full 3 levels of protective polish, and some extra attack boost on top. If you prefer, you can drop flinch free and max out speed sharpening for any of the builds that don't have it at level 3, but I wouldn't recommend that for multiplayer. In this case, we actually have 2 further weapons that fit the build, the Aura's Hook, as well as Fire and Ice. These won't beat the Gallet Soul in damage output, but if you want some extra blast going off or just love the design of the Aura's Hook, these are both very solid weapon options. My version uses a very convenient talisman for ice dual blades. I can switch a few things around and go for attack boost level 4 and add a few extra comfort skills. If you're enjoying the video so far or find it helpful, your thumbs up would be greatly appreciated and helps out the channel. Stormcaller. A thunder build using the Despot's Blitz. 200 attack, blue sharpness, 31 thunder, and a level 2 slot. Ideally, we would want to go for handicraft level 3 on this, but with the limitations of the talisman, that isn't possible without losing a bunch of damage and comfort skills. Simply wouldn't be worth it. So instead, we go for a max comfort setup with a few extras, ensuring that we can keep on the monster as long as possible before resharpening. My version showcases what a setup with handicraft level 3 would look like. But as you can see, I'm losing a level of protective polish and also flinch free, which I'm not a big fan of losing. If you can make it work with your talisman, definitely go for the handicraft level 3 setup. Dragon's End. For anyone wondering why we aren't using the full Valstrax set, don't worry, we'll see that in a moment. We're using the Valstrax dual blades. Only 170 attack, but huge natural white sharpness, a massive 35 dragon, and a level 2 slot. The rampage skill on this one is quite situational. For the build we're seeing now, we want to go with either attack boost or wyvern exploit, depending on what you want to use it for. This build comes stacked with damage skills and can even outperform the full Valstrax set. If you prefer, you can even drop some of the damage decos and put in Master's Touch level 3, which goes super well with our high critical rate. This build is super customizable. A full Valstrax version doesn't work very well with 2 level 2 slots. We would just end up missing a bunch of slots to make it worthwhile. For my full Valstrax version, I went with a talisman that completes the set very well. It has super high damage output, but we do have to keep in mind that the skills on the Valstrax set are very situational, and sometimes not the ideal choice for multiplayer, which is why I often go with the first build. If you do decide to go full Valstrax set, always pick Valstrax Soul as your rampage skill. If you haven't seen the other build videos on the channel yet, I highly recommend checking them out. You might find something you like. If you enjoyed this kind of content and tips on everything Monster Hunter related, hit that subscribe button to stay tuned for more. Share the information with our fellow hunters, and leave any form of feedback you have for me in the comments below. Thanks again for watching, take care, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.